In this screencast, we're going to take a look at the BIOPAC Stimulus Presentation system and walk through some of the different options. We'll also touch on the integration with an MP recording device for collecting physiological data, combining with eye tracking and creating areas of interest, and also face reader. So we won't cover much of those in detail. The primary focus will be on the stimulus presentation. So for those of you that have the stimulus presentation license in AcqKnowledge, you'll have this new option at the top in the wizard. So I've launched AcqKnowledge, and now I have the option to create a new stimulus presentation. So I hit OK. This is the presentation designer. It's designed in broken into 3 different sections. On the left-hand side, this is where we're going to see the different types of stimuli that we want to build into our presentation. We get to preview any images or the individual stimuli that are going to be presented. And then over on the right, we have the properties associated with each of those images. We've got a toolbar along the top, save, and add. And we're going to add some images. So I've got option here, image. And I'm just going to grab several images. So very easily we can bring those in and we can view them individually. So this is a target image of a lady eating a bug, a worm, and lady with a spider on her face. And then over on the right, we see the details for that particular image. So one of the most important ones is controlling how long the image is presented to the participant. Remember, I'm just going to touch on some of the more frequently used items just to give you a better idea of how this all comes together. So this is going to be presented for 3 seconds. We don't have a category assigned for this particular image, but you can come in here, pick images of a particular category, and you can assign them a category name. And I'll show you that in a little more detail in a moment. Can control the background color. So at the moment, the background color is set to white. But if we change that to black, you can see now we've got this black border where it fills in the space because we're controlling the scale fit and maintaining the aspect ratio for this particular image. So in this case, white is the preferred background color. And you can do this on a image by image basis so that you provide a better blend when you're presenting your images. And as I mentioned, you can control the fit and aspect ratio for any image that's being presented. We can come over here. If we just turn this option off, we can see how it's adjusted it. And if we choose not to scale it to fit, you can see now we've got the full screen, but we've lost the proportion and the fit. So we can turn these back on. We're back to where we were. And again, we can control that background on this image. Now, if we want to remove an image, we've now, because we've got an active image selected, we now have this additional tool available. This will delete or remove from the list, or we can do a multi-select. So I've got 2 images selected and I can remove them both. Now, one of the things I mentioned a moment ago is the ability to create a category of images. So let's just assume all of the images I'm looking at, I can select folder. And this is that folder we just used, select folder. I can now categorize them as being positive, negative, or neutral, or I can create a new category. So maybe they're all bugs, or maybe they're all whatever it is. Okay, so this is how we can control that, and then we just hit add stimuli and it will automatically bring in all of those different images. I'm just going to hit add. So now these were the images that were present within there, and you can see there's a couple of different options, a couple of cars included. Maybe I don't want those, so I'll just remove those out of there. So we're back to where we were. Using my right mouse button, I've got options for adding new stimuli, deleting, dry run, which I'll get into in a moment. The next thing, once we've brought in the different types of stimuli, I'm just going to make some changes here. Quickly change this to 3 seconds. And let's see if we can make this. And oops. So now each of these reflects that 7-second change that I made. So you can bring images in, remove them, and you can control them using, I'm just using the control key on my keyboard to multi-select. Now the next thing we want to do is set up a sequence. And actually before we do that, I'm going to back up. As each of these images is presented, the software will automatically place an event mark in AcqKnowledge. So when we're recording the physiological data with our presentation, an event mark will appear above the graph window in the global stimulus bar. And this particular event type is stimulus delivery. And we use that so that when we run the stim response analysis, we don't have to come in and make any changes here, but you have access to all the different types of event marks within AcqKnowledge. But by default, stimulus delivery is going to be enabled. So anyway, into sequence, these are the images that we have. I can move those into my presentation sequence using the arrow here, or I can double click like so. So now I've created this sequence of target followed by an insect, followed by a target, followed by an insect, followed by a target, followed by an insect. Now I mentioned earlier that we could do a dry run. There's the option up here, the play option, or I can use my right mouse button, which is what I referred to earlier, but I'm just going to hit play. Now we'll see the sequence of images that we just created. So the main images will be presented for 7 seconds, the targets for 3 seconds. You can see we've got that white background around here, and the images are scaled to fit. All right, so that's our dry run. Very easy to set that up. If we decide that we want to add more stimuli, we can do that. We can come into the add button down here. We can do randomization of images side by side. We can bring in PDFs, videos, text, audio. Pick and choose what you want, but the concept is going to be the same. We're going to create that sequence. Once we've got it all created, we'll come over here and we'll save that, and I'll just call this something original like test. The extension for all of our physiological data, the AcqKnowledge file format is .acq, but for the stimulus presentation files, the extension is BSP. That's for BIOPAC Stimulus Pres. So this file will be test.bsp. We hit save. Everything's ready to go. One thing I didn't show you is the Sigma option here. This gives us a summary of the presentation. So we're going to present 6 items. The total time will be 30 seconds, and this is a record of the sequence with the duration for each of the different stimuli. And we can copy that to a clipboard, drop it into some report for further use. Okay, finally, once we've got our stimulus presentation set up, we then get to control the MP device that we've got connected. If we've got an eye tracker, if we're using Face Reader, I've got an MP150 connected. I can come into Edit Current Setup, and it will show me I've just got enabled the accelerometer. Close that out, and then I can turn on and off the eye tracker or Face Reader. I can also come in and edit the areas of interest before we actually start recording data. Once we've got all that set up, we can save it all and then hit the record button to launch the StimPres, the eye tracker, Face Reader, and any physiological data that are being collected at the same time. So that concludes this first screencast on stimulus presentation. The next one I run will be focusing on the area of interest editor, and it will pick up from where we've just left off.